Hi there, my name is Tari Lima, and I help adult children of narcissistic and emotionally immature parents individuate and gain psychological freedom. That just means you call the shots in your own life and you learn how to deal with the tremendous guilt and fear and whatever else emotionally that you might have to deal with in order to be able to do this. In this video, I want to talk about the feeling that it's too late to fight for yourself. I've had a lot of students and clients who are middle aged or even younger ones who feel it's too late. I even had one who was in their early 20s and they felt completely depressed that the fact that they had been raised by a narcissistic mother meant that their life had already passed them by and there was nothing that they could do. So I think for a lot of people who are discovering about narcissistic parents, sometimes later on in life, but sometimes earlier in life, there is a lot of grieving that goes on. And it's not just the grief associated with understanding that, your mom or your dad has this limitation. And I understand that you may have tried really hard to mend the relationship and make things easier, but it doesn't depend solely on you. You know what I'm saying? We need the other person to have interest in putting in the effort to maintain a healthy relationship. So there's the grieving that goes on, that involves just giving up this idealized image of the family you could have, and that in itself is painful for many people. Some people don't care and have an easier time with this. But for many people who experience high degrees of empathy and also even eroticism, um, this can be very hard, right? But I'm not talking about that type of grief. There's another type of grief that goes on. And it's a type of grief that is associated with the person feeling an incredible loss of self. Like, who could I have been if I had been raised in a so called healthy family system, right? It's this feeling that part of them got frozen in time and that there's nothing you can do about it because you can't go back in time and have another childhood and have another adolescence, You just have to do what you can with what you got, right? And you're maybe 35, 45, 55, 65, or whatever. And this doesn't seem so easy. So, this is the grief that I'm talking about, the grief about who you could have been if you had been raised in a different family system. The first thing that I want to tell you is that even though I understand, um, that's not an option. No one's going back and having another childhood. And I know this is not easy. But the reason that I'm saying this is because you also don't need to. You don't need to go back into an idealized childhood and have a completely different experience. Because even though it can feel like it's too late right now, I need you to know that every amount of effort that you make in relation to individuating is going to be worth it for you. Even if you're 50, 60 years old. And I can tell you this because I've had loads of clients who are middle aged and beyond and who have given me this feedback. I don't want you to confuse how incredibly hard it is to deal with a narcissistic family system and integrate all that information and do something about it, with it being synonymous with there's no getting over this. That is absolutely not true. The more that you decide to actually go through your individuation process, and what that means is you stop reacting to what the family wants and you stop reacting according to the roles that the family put you into, and you learn how to self-regulate so that you may access your own inner compass, your own wise part. Individuation means that throughout your day, whereas before whatever happened made you react in a programmed way and you were programmed to act that way, through a mixture of genetic predispositions, but also what you learned through your family system, what you're going to start doing now is throughout the day, as you get triggered, you're going to pause. You're going to self regulate. It's a physical phenomenon, okay? It's not a psychological thing. You don't self regulate by just like intellectualizing, right? You need to physically calm yourself down. And when you're calmer, it doesn't mean that it's not going to hurt and you're not going to feel emotions, but it does mean that you're going to access your wise part. So whereas before I would get triggered, maybe when I don't know, my mom sent me a message, like I'd get super triggered and I wouldn't be able to think because I'd feel guilty. And then I would answer her immediately because that's what I was trained to do. From the moment where you start individuating, what you do is you get triggered, You remind yourself that you've already lost contact with your inner compass, so you have to go back to regulating yourself so you can have that contact. Because if you're not in contact with your inner compass, everything you do is just programmed behavior. You pause, you pause before you answer or do whatever you're used to doing. You tell yourself, hey, I've always been scared of what could happen if I didn't answer immediately. Now, my mission is following my inner compass and not just reacting to the way I was programmed, into my trauma, into all of that. What my inner compass is telling me to do is to wait to answer, to not answer. And I know that waiting to answer or not answering is easier said than done if you deal with guilt. But the reason I keep telling you that every single ounce of effort that you put into learning how to follow your inner compass is useful is because it's a repetitive thing. It's very much like training a muscle. And the more you get triggered, pause, self regulate, talk to your inner compass, and do one tiny thing that your inner compass is telling you to do. And it might be something like, hey, you normally answer immediately. Just wait 5 minutes. Just wait 10 minutes. You may think that's very little, but if it's literally the first time that you're doing it in your life, my God, can you celebrate yourself? Can you please take a step back and look at how courageous you're being, even though you feel so much guilt and so much fear, all right? So every single time that you decide consciously to face those difficult emotions in the name of doing your 1% of following your inner compass just today, all of those little droplets of effort have a cumulative effect. I promise you, if you keep going through it, you are going to find that it gets easier and easier to follow your inner compass. And then something beautiful happens. It's going to get to a point where you're going to learn how to self-regulate automatically. This means that the next time you get triggered, you're not going to have to make all of this effort to like calm down and follow your inner compass. At some point, your wise part is going to start talking to you. And then you're going to be like, oh my God, thank God that I took the time to actually install this new wise voice, because now it talks back to me and I'm not alone anymore, just feeling guilty and scared and confused, right? And you're not going to get this wise part talking back to you if you don't make the effort to pause when you have triggers, self regulate, and contact your wise part. Every time you make that effort, various times per day, it's worthwhile, and you're building this voice that will eventually become a voice that can guide you. All right. So please, in summary, don't confuse how hard it is and how triggering it is to slowly take tiny steps towards your individuation, which means getting triggered, pausing, self-regulating, and talking to your inner compass and doing what your inner compass wants you to do, right? Don't confuse how hard that is with it's impossible, I'm not going to be able to do it. It's hard because you're doing something for the first time, and I applaud you. You know, and you inspire me. Whenever I see someone doing that in a toxic family system, I think they're courageous as hell. All right. So that's what I wanted to tell you. If you want more support, then look at the description for my email so you can get in touch, or you can download your Break the Chains Roadmap, 10 steps to break free from your narcissistic parents' control.